Okay, so we're going to use a Nicot cup kit system for producing the 12 to 24 hour old larvae, which will then be used to produce queen cells. There are other types of cell production available, notably the cheap Chinese versions that you can get from some suppliers. This one cost me 70 odd quid several years ago, but I know the Chinese ones are considerably cheaper. And there are some smaller Nicot ones as well, so you don't have to use 111 cells like this one, which is over the top. But at the time when I bought this, there was nothing else available of a smaller quantity. It certainly repay you, because even at 70 quid you only need to do 3 or 4 good queens and you've got your money back in spades. What we're going to do is we're going to prepare the cassette frame to go into the nucleus a day in advance of when we want to put the queen in. That's to warm it up and to get the bees used to it. So to do that, I'm going to take the back off. We've already filled it up with new brown cups. So take the front off here. This is the queen excluder bit. Take that off. Then I'm going to mix a bit of syrup with some flakes of wax from foundation. You can use any old wax. It's just so you're going to coat the inside of it with syrup and wax just to attract the bees to it. So we put that in there. Wax has melted. It doesn't homogenise really. It floats on top as you'd expect because it's a fat. And use this brush, get a bit of the wax, and I just spread it all over. So it leaves bits of wax all over the place, which hopefully they will clean up. Get the cells ready for the queen to lay in. It smells nicely, bees. I haven't done anything with it since last year, so it's got the smell of the previous year's bees in it as well. Okay, so that's that bit done. We put this queen excluder front back on. And there we are now, it's ready to go into the nucleus. Right, so this is my home apiary. It's at the bottom of the garden. And this box here contains the queen that I've chosen to be the queen mother. She's in the nucleus because she's been under swarm control from the full colony, but it makes it easier to find her to put in the cell frame once we come to do that. But you can do it in a full box. You don't have to do it in a nucleus. Okay. Right. So we've got the cell frame here already. I'm going to open up the nucleus. There we go. Now, she's been in the nucleus for quite a while, and unfortunately they were beginning to swarm again. So I've had to reduce the flyers in there, but there's still plenty of young bees, and it's allowed me to have a couple of spare frames as well. So what we're going to do is, I'm just going to check whether they've done anything with this frame, which they had a few days ago. So yeah, they've started to draw that out, as you can see. I'll put that back in, and what we're going to do is without disrupting them. I'm going to open that up. It's going to go in there. It's going to go in there either. What we're going to do is we're going to put it in between here. So the idea with this now is to run this in for 24 hours. So as the bees get accustomed to it. So this would be, I call this day -1. There's a little bit of honey around it. I'm just bruising it so as they'll remove it. Right, so that's in there now. So the wax and the syrup that I put in there hopefully will attract some bees in there. They'll start cleaning it up. In fact, I've changed my mind. I don't like it on the outside there. So we're going to put it in between these two. So there's plenty of bees in these two. So we'll put it back in again. There we go. Put that in there. Put that in there. So we've not looked for the queen. We just hope she's there. She was there the other day, so I'm assuming she's still going to be there. They seem happy enough. Once I've put the frame in to get it warmed up, I'm going to give them a small patty of frozen pollen and fondant that I've mixed. I've got a feeling this one might be a little bit too runny. I'm going to leave it in the plastic, but cut it open so they can get to it. I've got a knife somewhere. There we go. So I'm going to cut the top right off. Straight down the middle. One half there. And I'm going to peel this back. You can use one of the proprietary ones. At this time of the year, I'd use something that has pollen in it rather than a pollen substitute, because they tend not to like the pollen substitute ones this time of the year because there's too much fresh pollen about. And the idea of this is for them to get their hypopharyngeal glands going, so they're going to produce plenty of brood food for when the larvae emerge, because that's what we want them to do. I'm sure there's an easier way of doing this, but it stops it running down between the frames and allows them to get at it. Okay, put that back on top. We'll see how much they eat over the 24 hours. Right, so today is day 0. This is the day we put the queen in. So, right, so the cassette has been warming up for 24 hours, letting them get used to it. They've cleaned the cells out after we put the sugar syrup with the wax on it, which will then encourage them to clean it out. And then we're going to have to find the queen. So, there's the cassette frame. Now I'm going to try and find the queen. There she is. You can see her just there. Okay, so I've got to buy both wings. In you go, look. Go on, in you go. Right. Ah, she's in there now. You can see her. She's just there. Running down the side. See the white spot on her? Okay. We'll stick her back in. There we go. So that's day 0. Tomorrow will be day 1. Okay, so today we've come back to remove the queen from the cassette box. Now hopefully, these poor little devils must have got trapped in there yesterday. Hopefully she will have laid eggs. We're going to check that first, obviously, otherwise we've been wasting our time. Chuck them away today. You can see they're loving that. Right. There was a big pool of that stuff on there yesterday. That's all gone, and they've snaffled a good deal of what was there. Drain that out overnight. Good. Okay, so I'm going to try and see if we've got any eggs in there now. Yeah, I can see some eggs. I'm not saying that it's all done, but there's certainly some in there that have got eggs in. So we can release her. So to release her, just take the front queen excluder off. There she is. There we go. So I'm just going to try and pick her up. Just drop her. There she goes. Right, now then. Yeah. She's laid up the majority of them. I don't know whether you can get it on the camera. You see them right? Yeah. Okay, so now what we're going to do is I'm going to put the queen excluder front back on. We know those eggs have been laid over this 24-hour period. She can't get back in there, so if there were any that she hadn't laid up, she can't lay any more at a different time. So we now know exactly that those eggs can be no more than 24 hours old. And now we're going to leave them for 4 days. On the 4th day, the larvae should be between 12 and 24 hours old, and that's the sort of time we want them so as we can turn them into queen cells. Okay, so I'm going to pop this back in. On. That wasn't a good idea, was it? Put the top on. I'll come back and do that later. Okay. There we go. Okay, so today is day 3. The eggs should be just about ready to hatch, which will give them to be about between 24 and 12 hours old tomorrow when we're going to put them into this frame. But to start with, this frame, we're going to put it into the maternity box to condition it so as the bees get used to it. As you can see, it's a bar with bases on, brown bases, which come with the cupcake kit, and then these are the cream cell holders. So these hold the little brown cells that are in the cassette that have got the eggs in at the moment, and these just go on like that. I'll put them slightly at an angle so as I can grab hold of those little points there, because those are the points that are going to go in between the frames when we put the cells eventually into the mating nukes. Okay, so that's on there. Same again with the syrup and wax. I'm going to mix some syrup and wax up and just brush it all over, just so it attracts them. Max melt a bit with the sugar. And then all I do is just brush it all over. It doesn't stick very well until the wax starts. Put it on the wood as well. Put it all over. It's just to bring the bees up to warm it all up and get it ready for tomorrow. There we go. That's the first stage for today. We'll go down to the apiary now and do the second stage. Okay, so we've got the cell bar frame here. I've filled up the trough underneath with a pollen and fondant mixture for the time being. This is going to go into the middle. Okay, we've got two large dummy boards here which will are filling out the box, because we're only going to have 4 frames in here. We're going to have 2 frames of food, a frame of young brood and the cell bar frame. So they need to be there to fill it out, and also the idea is that it forces the bees to come up through a narrow channel to get to the supers. So you're getting a constant flow of bees coming through there that will feed the larvae as well. The frame of pollen and it is capped, but I'm going to strike it open so they can access it. Okay, so that's going to go in that side. Okay, I've only shaken the bees off it, so it'll be alright. Put the cell bar up against that cell bar frame. The brood box is a bit short of frames of open food, so I'm stealing a super frame. I'm going to put that there. It won't hurt for the period of time that we're going to be in there. It's got no spacing on it, so that might make it a little bit more difficult for us, but needs must. So at the moment then we've got 2 frames of food and 1 frame, or the other one is the cell bar frame. So this is a frame of young larvae and eggs that I've taken out of the parent colony. I'm going to put that in there. So that's going to start attracting up the bees from below. Right, so now I'm going to close the frames up and put some extra frames in to replace the 2 we've taken out. Okay, so the maternity box is now ready to go back on. So put the queen excluder on, because obviously we don't want the queen up there, and that's why all the frames were shaking clear, so we know that she's in the bottom box. So now put that on top. The queen excluder between the main box and the maternity box. The second of the 2 supers. Okay, mate. And then I'm going to put the second box on top of that one. Extremely heavy. Okay, so we're going to leave that now for 24 hours. 24 hours from now, the young larvae in the cassette, in that nuke there, will be old enough to go onto that cell bar frame. So we'll do that tomorrow about the same time. Okay, so today is day 4, which means that we should have in the brown cells larvae of between 12 hours and 24 hours old. You can see that they've cleared up the pollen and fondant mixture. There's next to no left on those 2 bits of plastic. Okay, so this is the frame we want. I'm just going to pull it straight out. Oh. Okay, now then. Very difficult to see, I'm afraid, these at the moment, so what we'll do is when we pull them out we'll try and photograph them then. So I'm going to put them in there just to keep it relatively warm. lid on top. Time being, only a few beans on it. There. Okay, I'll sort that out in a minute too. Right. Okay, so that we've taken them out now, so that's it for that operation. Right, so we're going to open the back. We're going to have a look at some of these cells. Right, now I find the easiest way to pull these out of the back is a pair of these little, they just pull out like that. I don't know whether you can see in there, but there's a little blob of liquid at the bottom. Yeah, you got it, mate? Okay, so that's a good one. Right, put that one back. Right, now then, we've had this warming up for 24 hours. Clumsy. And you can see they're really enjoying it. Okay. I'm going to try and get rid of a few of these now. There we go. Right, so we've now got nicely warmed up cups. Leave that on there. I want 11 with blobs in. So let's take the one we first tried, which is that one, and I can see that there's a blob in there. So take that off, put it straight in there. Okay. That's another one that's got some in. I'm just picking them out randomly. That doesn't appear to have anything in, that one. Neither does that. That does, but it's not central. Don't bother with that. Let's try some up here. Yeah, that's a nice blob in the bottom of that. See, they haven't got anything in. So she didn't lay it like I thought she had. And that's got a blob in it. We need to be fairly quick because we don't want them to cool down. We don't want the brood food to evaporate. We want to get them back into there as soon as we can. Taking them randomly. don't see what I like, they're not getting used. That's at the side now. Still got an egg in it. Still got an egg in it as well. Pretty strange. So these must be very young, these larvae. But that's what we want. We want between 12 and 24 hours old. Won't use that one. A piece of wax dropped in on it. That's all 11 done. They're wrong way around there, so they want swivelling back. Just going to make sure that they're all pushed in. Right. Keep that over there so there's a bit of heat coming up. So they've eaten quite a bit of the food that I put in yesterday. So I have a bit more here. Top it back up, and hopefully this will see them through to the stage where they're sealed. So again, it's just pollen and fondant mixture. As you can see, they like it. See, they've got quite a bit to go out there. I'm going to put that straight back in now. Okay. Tighten it back up, get the spacing right. A bit. Right, and just as a final, find that. There. Okay, smoker. Move them all down a bit now. Okay, so next step will be tomorrow. We'll come and check to make sure that they've taken to them, and they should have a little ring of wax around the end of the brown cell. Hopefully. However, the weather's not forecasting very good for the next few days, and I have known that in the past to upset them, so we'll have to suck it and see. Right, so we've removed the cells that we want, but there are obviously 100 and odd left in this cassette which we don't really want, and I found the easiest way is to just wash them out under the tap. But before I do that, if I hold it up to light, Paul might be able to show you what you're looking for. Can you see them, mate? Okay, so that's them. Now we'll go and wash them out. All I do is just run the tap over them, and hopefully we get most of it out. And then next year we'll add a few more cells to it and put it back in for another go. However, if you were a member of a group, you could do this and then take these cells away. You probably have to make them up on site rather than taking the cells with you, but if you brought a frame with some bees on it from your colony that you wanted to produce queens from, you could put the cells in and then take the frame back to your colony and use put that into the maternity box that you've made up and see if that'll take. I mean, it's one way of sharing out 111 larvae.